Canucks captain, and I would say, why is it always such a fuss who wears that damn letter in this city? But we see places like Toronto, it's become a big thing. So worst kept secret in town, as Francesco said, Bo Horvat is the captain. Good choice, obviously, but why the wait? Why did we have to get dragged through this so long?
In terms of this season?
Even last year, too. A lot of people thought last year he was the guy.
I think last year it was sort of one of those ones where I think on the sort of the Canucks side, whether it's the team side, the marketing side, I think they knew that they kind of had a year to not talk about it. That, obviously this is the new team. They wanted to sort of emphasize the team aspect as opposed to saying this is the great leader that's going to take them into the next era. Try to avoid that. But they knew coming into this year, it was going to be a talking point. And, it's so interesting as you see how, from our side of the table, obviously you don't know a lot about what happens, in their daily lives in terms of how they mesh together. But you get a sense of some of these things. And, you sort of find yourself thinking, okay, how does this room shake out? And whose voice carries weight? And, Horvat, at the end of the day, has been around. In terms of the young guys, he's the longest standing young guy. He's a great public speaker. He really has a work ethic that is notable, that makes a difference. I mean, all these guys work hard. That's the thing, right? They all put in their time, and they're all in good shape, and at least and they're ready to play. And so for a guy like Horvat, it is that ability to stand up and speak and be willing to do that. The stamp on your sweater means in many ways more outside the room than it does inside the room, because, they talk about this idea of leadership group, but that's the case in every sports team now. It's not unique to hockey that you have guys that are the guys that set the tone, that, they talk about culture, but those are the guys that kind of direct where we're thinking and what we're trying to do and when we're switched on and when we're switched off. Horvat, when I talked to him, I wrote a thing about leadership last week, and he talked so much about, everyone's talked about Sedins, but he talked so much about the Sedins and just sort of the recognition he had. His first training camp, he came in, he said, I thought I was in good shape, and then I met the Sedins, and they were first in everything. And he said in practice, they were always like, this is serious, there's no joking around, let's do this, let's get better at this. And that's really stuck with him, and I think that's a legacy that Horvat himself wants to carry forward, and you can see there's a focus on the ice, and let's get stuff done.
I was going to say, there's different ways to handle a captaincy. I think some teams over in history have maybe taken the best player and given them the C.
Right.
You look at a Mario Lemieux, I'm not sure he was really the leader of that team, but that was almost like a contract
Gretzky
for him.
and Messier, we always talk about that.
Yeah, and I think with the Canucks, you could look at that. That may be the case with Marcus Naslund when he was a captain. Then you got guys who lead by example, like Henrik Sedin. That seems to be more the Canucks pedigree, isn't it? With if you look at Smeel, Linden, Henrik, those are more guys who don't come out and say a lot. They're not like fire and brimstone in front of the camera, but it's like they go out and prove it and show it every night. That's the flavor of this franchise over its 50 years as a captain. Is that more important than, say, who has the biggest voice in that room? Because I look at it, Elias Pettersson, I look at the way he handled it last year and go, man, he's captain material as well.
There's definitely a case for him, and I think that could still happen one day. Yeah, and in that same story, that was one of the discussions we had. Was I asked him, I said, tell me about leadership. What do you understand it to be? And it was really interesting because he started talking about the idea of leading by example, and then kind of pivoted into why he likes playing defense, which actually was also quite insightful, because it was one of those ones he realized, if he doesn't have the puck, he can't score, and he likes to score. So that was insightful. But from his perspective, it was very much about how do I present myself. He's not a super talkative guy. He's sort of listens. He wants to win. He has certain points he wants to make, and that presence. He's a presence guy, and. I think exactly. I think that's a great observation, because Naslund in many ways was the same kind of fellow. Like you said, not a raw type, but let's get it done. This is how we do it. And again, Henrik was the same way. So
Smeel, Linden, that has been the legacy of this franchise. Is it? As a media guy, You go into the locker room, there are go-to guys. You're going through a tough streak. I mean, Henrik was a guy who was always there. You know, I remember Botch talking about many times the last guy in the locker room. Anyone needed a question answered, always there, never hiding in the medical room.
Yeah.
Horvat cut from the same
Horvat's
cloth.
been totally the same guy. Like last year, you know, you could tell he was conscious of the fact that, yeah, exactly, that role that when the going was tough, and you needed someone to be the team spokesman, it had always been Henrik Sedin. He had seen that Henrik would basically be standing there waiting for you. And Horvat has put on that same mask, if you will, and is ready to go. And he talks honestly. You know, he obviously there's moments where he has to give you the line that you're supposed to deliver, but yeah, he will say, no, it's frustrating, this, that, and the other. We need to do this, that, and the other. And when he answers those questions, they're never out of line. You know, and I think that's the other thing, is that, you know, he's fair and he's honest in terms of how he deals with what he's trying to do. And as I said, you know, their job is to essentially give you. You know, I mean, the joke with Henrik used to be was that there's always a positive, even in these crushing losses. And, you know, he's the same way, but there is an honesty there. And, he never throws anybody under the bus, but he also is honest, but they need to play better, things like that. And then, of course, in a win, you know, I mean, that was the other credit with Henrik, was that he would step back and let the other guys talk. And, you know, Bo's always there. He's always available. And that's to his credit, because, you know, there's a lot to deal with on a daily basis, and, you know, it's a job unlike anybody else's.
Who wears the C, you or Kuz?
Oh, well.
That's a loaded question.
Really loaded
How are
question.
you going to
Can I say Ed Willis?
You can.
There we go.
Diplomatic answer. Patrick, Ben Kuzma, Ed Willis on Canucks Beat all season. You can get your Bo Horvat poster with him wearing the new C in the province. Select copies for a fee. Funds going to Children's Hospital, available at the Canucks Team store. Got your poster series, podcasts, stories, video all year long on the Canuck Beat.